Hi there. First, let me say, we do not give in to mob rule in this country. As everybody knows, Ruth Bader Ginsburg died last night, so there's a seat opening up on the Supreme Court. There's a vacancy, and President Trump and Mitch McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell, are going to move fast. When this happened, I first heard of it last night. That's what I thought too. I thought they have to act fast. I listened to the news on Tucker Carlson, and I was dismayed listening to him because the undercurrent that he had was that, oh boy, there's going to be a lot of unrest. Maybe we should wait. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? We don't give in to that. Yeah, okay. The little babies are going to have a tantrum. Okay, they're not getting their way. Okay, and they think that's how they can rule us? No way. Okay, no way. Now, I know if I had that feeling right away, I thought, there's a lot of other people that feel this way as well. And that's probably you and many, many of us. Let's just do this. Since then, I've done some research, read Twitter, Twitter remarks, and a few articles. And it turns out, throughout history, you can confirm someone pretty quickly. And we might be able to make all these COVID restrictions work in our favor. And also now we know when you have all these rioters and protesters around the Capitol, we'll get rid of them. I mean, this doesn't have to be like the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. We don't have to go through this whole procedure. And the Democrats have shown their colors, so we don't have to afford them all these niceties. We're gonna play tough, okay? That's it. Now, they're gonna try to say, well, I don't care what they try to say, like Merrick Garland, but Molly Hemingway put a stop to that. She just said, look, when Merrick Garland, during President Obama's last year, when he was put into office, when he was nominated for the Supreme Court Justice position, we had a Republican majority. I remember I was thinking at the time, why do you want to put this nice man through all of this? It is really, really hard to go through a Senate confirmation process. And if he's not going to win, and you know up front that he's not going to win, why would you put him through that? I didn't hear anybody else mention that, but that was my objection. But it doesn't matter, okay? They don't play fair. They lie. They lie, okay? They threaten to burn things down. I don't care what they think, okay? We have a Republican majority, and we have a Republican president, and we can get this through quickly, and we have to. And here's the other thing that has changed since Brett Kavanaugh, the hearings. Well, there's a lot changed. The Democrats are far, far more disorganized. I mean, how does all this fit into the recent somewhat demise of the Me Too movement? That's those people who are supporting women. They're kind of gone right now in the Democratic Party. Not when you have all these white women and supporting black rapists getting out of jail. I mean, come on. And with BLM and Antifa, there's just people who want to riot. And we just clear them out. They just want to create chaos. But again, there's the COVID-19 restrictions, and you can enforce those. Whatever. We're going to make it work for us. And we need to do this. And this is what I love about our president. I knew he would do it. I just thought when I listened to Tucker and some of the other commentators, but Charlie Hurt was good. He said, no, he needs to do this. And Laura Ingraham was pretty good when I listened to her later. She was a little bit wavery. But I am sorry. We're just going to do it. And here's the thing that's interesting. Because we have 53 Republicans in the Senate. And you have to get 51 votes. Now, you could get 50 votes, but then Mike Pence could be the 51st vote. And that's only happened with Betsy DeVos, the education secretary. But, in today's climate, that's what it takes, that's what it takes. So we can lose 3. And it's thought that you're going to lose Susan Collins. She's kind of indicated that already. Lisa Murkowski, she's also indicated, and Mitt Romney. But we don't really know how Mitt Romney's going to vote. He's sort of persona non grata now in the Republican Party. This would be a chance for him to redeem himself. And it's also, any Republican senator that does not vote for the nominee, they're toast in the Republican Party. They're toast for their next election. So I think McConnell will get the votes. But anyway, you could lose those 3 and we could still get it through. They're out otherwise. It's that simple. Now, one of the things, just reading Twitter and a few other places, it's these threats that the left is making. They're not threats to vote people out or this or that. These are threats of violence. Like, we're going to take to the streets. You can't do this. What is going on with the left? Have they forgotten that we have government? Have they forgotten that we have a constitution? They have gone so far afield, and there's so many different factions that I think they're tearing themselves apart. So in 2011, I think it was 2011, because that's when the book came out, I read a book by Reza Aslan, because I wanted to learn more about. It was a history of Islam. It was called No God But God, The Origins, Evolution, and Future of Islam. And it was a way for me to learn about the Islamic religion. And so I went to his Amazon page today just to see, and he's had a lot of books. So he's like a scholar. He's got a PhD, did all this. But here's what he tweeted out. Now think about the ramifications. Why does he think it's okay to tweet something like this out? If they even try, all caps, to replace RBG, that's Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we burn the entire, and he spelled out the word, but I'll say effing thing down. We burn the entire effing thing down. Why do people on the left think they can talk like that? Because they're in a bubble. That's how they talk amongst themselves. And they're getting more and more vile, more and more violent, and they think it's okay. Well, we've got to let them know it is not okay. I was talking to Kathy, my friend and hairdresser. Thank you, Kathy. And she told me, because Kathy's really nice, but she's strong. And she said one of her clients or whatever was saying something like, I wish Trump was dead, whatever. And Kathy said, I don't wish anybody dead. She's got to keep her clients, so she can't really come out strong. But on the other hand, I got all fired up when she told me. I said, Kathy, why do people think that they can say something like that? That is just morally wrong, to wish death on another person, okay? Dehumanizing people that way. obviously they talk among themselves that way, so they don't even, nobody gives them any pushback. Nobody says, what? Don't you talk like that around here. I don't want murderers and violent people. I mean, we need to call them out on it. And the fact that a religious scholar, okay, and I read his book, he was never like this before, would say such hateful, and not just hateful, but we don't get our way, we're going to burn it all down. What does that even mean? What are you saying? Well, actually, you know, after the 2016 election, I was shocked they let kids out of school to protest the results of an election. Because I'd lived through many, many elections that I didn't like the results, but you don't protest it. Okay? So these Democrats, they really are dangerous. But they're dangerous in a impotent way because we can put them down. And Trump is putting them down. I mean, we're starting to do it. And they try to say all these things like, you're the fascist. I mean, I have to not, every once in a while I go on and read some of their tweets. Literally, they're crazy people. You read it and you think, oh my God, how can they even think this? How do they go there? I mean, they say the most outrageous things. They so impugn our president, but in effect, they're impugning all of us. And they're so certain they're right because they're in their little bubble. Like, in looking at some of the, one guy showed 12 tweets, at least, just 12. I mean, he just showed them. And they were all about killing or wishing him dead, Mitch McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell. I mean, we need to go after these people. These are terrorist threats. Maybe not the ones that say, I wish you were dead. I mean, that's just a mean thing to say. But the ones that say, I would kill him, he should be killed, he should be murdered. Okay, why are we allowing that kind of talk? So, at least we should know that when they correspond with us in any way, in conversation, that is not acceptable, and we need to push back hard. You know, there's a lot of things we're obviously concerned about with the upcoming election. I think Trump is going to get a lot of votes because there's so much enthusiasm for him and so many new people that have come on board. So obviously we're worried about mail-in ballots and things like that. But remember, we can make this work for us. Don't think they're that smart. I used to be a Democrat, okay? If I were thinking, where do I want to be right now? I mean, just in terms of being on the winning side or the losing side. Would you really want to be a Democrat right now? I mean, just try to put yourself in that mindset for a moment. You are losing, losing, losing. There's no walk-away movement of people coming from the Republican Party and becoming Democrats. Oh, except those that want to be up the elite who are getting money and power. I mean, those people are just rhinos. But I'm talking about regular, everyday people. There's nobody going over. Not, when I say regular, everyday people, real people, as opposed to people who are in media or who want to get a gig of some sort. So they're not that smart, and we can outsmart them. Like, I was disturbed to see about some Michigan judge saying, well, they can keep getting mail-in votes 2 weeks after the election. Well, we just have to take it higher, okay? Why should that Michigan judge be able to say that he can hold up the results of the vote in Michigan for two weeks while they collect all their fake ballots? No. And here's the other one. They're trying to urge Joe Biden, to not concede because while they do all this fake stuff. But we don't really know how Joe Biden would react. Joe Biden's not all there. right? If you were gonna do something that evil, that bad, like I'm not conceding the election, even though Trump has won, you know, as Hillary Clinton is advising and others are saying don't concede it. And they're trying to lay the groundwork, like it's gonna take weeks. Why is it gonna take weeks? Because of your stupid mail-in ballots where you've set it up that way? No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Well, do you really think that Joe Biden will, he might just say, well, no, he won. Even if they're advising him to say something else. I don't know how he'll do it. I mean, Joe Biden wants to be liked. He wants to be liked. And he's been around for many, many election cycles. And that might just seem a little too weird for him. I'm just raising that as a question. We don't really know what Joe Biden would do. And as long as he's still the nominee, as long as he's ostensibly the one who would concede or not concede, maybe he would concede. So, he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is just because they do awful things, we should never, ever give into it. We should never alter our behavior because we don't want to have this turmoil. We're just tired of this turmoil. Oh my God, no, no. These are toddlers having a tantrum. You don't give into it, okay? Because they'll just keep doing it. They'll get louder and louder. We have a rule of law. We have, you know, if we have to take this to the Supreme Court, and there's only 8 people on it, but at least there's one liberal view that's gone, to decide this election, then we'll do it. We'll do it. Trump has done so many good things this weekend. Also, he's doing all these rallies. I encourage you, when you can, to go on YouTube and listen to them. I just listened to the one last night in Minnesota. It was like 2 hours. It was just a pleasure listening to him talk. He's really got his groove. He's so great. He's so great. And of course, the Middle East, what he's doing there, amazing, amazing. And only Trump could have done it. Because you have to approach it from a different angle. And he did. By taking the PLO out of the equation, amongst other things. But let me say another thing that I personally love how quickly he acted on this. As soon as all this critical race theory came to his attention, thanks to the efforts of Christopher Rufo, that's R-U-F-O, who brought this to light, and then he went on Tucker Carlson, and he said all the president would have to do is do executive action, and we could get rid of it, because it's in the federal government. And this critical race theory is really, really bad stuff. I've talked about it before in previous videos. They try to make it like it's scientific, critical, like it's analytical, because you always use that term critical, you know. It's trying to say it's analytical, and in theory, like it's a science thing. It's BS propaganda. It is indoctrination. It is racism. Okay, but anyway, so President Trump, and I did a little bit of research this morning because I didn't actually know all this part of it. So it was like September 4th when President Trump did this, but he worked with the Office of Management and Budget. So Russell Vought, V-O-U-G-H-T, he's the director of the Office of Management Budget. And so, subject, training in the federal government. You know, this is Executive Office of the President. You know, what I love about the internet is you can just get this stuff. Do you know how hard it was when I was a researcher at RAND? Oh my God, you'd have to go to the library, you'd have to call and say, could you mail me this stuff? You just click on a link and I can be a researcher. Anybody can be a researcher. This is amazing stuff. But I really like what he said here. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you, a part of it. It has come to the president's attention that executive branch agencies have spent millions of taxpayer dollars to date training government workers to believe divisive anti-American propaganda. For example, according to press reports, employees across the executive branch have been required to attend trainings where they are told, and this is taxpayer money, this is so disgusting, virtually all white people contribute to racism, or where they are required to say that they benefit from racism. I mean, can you imagine that? You've got to go and you've got to confess your sins. It's like these, communist indoctrination camps, because you could lose your job if you don't write a thing about how because I'm white I benefit from racism. I mean, are we talking about we are sowing racism with this. I mean, it is so Orwellian, 1984, where the words mean the exact opposite. It's really like communism, but communism tried to do it by class. This is doing it by race. But here's what I like. So Trump just took it on, and right away, I mean, oh God, I love our president. These types of trainings not only run counter to the fundamental beliefs for which our nation has stood since its inception, but they also engender division and resentment within the federal workforce. We can be proud that as an employer, the federal government has employees of all races, ethnicities, and religions. We can be proud that Americans from all over the country seek to join our workforce and dedicate themselves to public service. We're proud. The president has directed me to ensure that federal agencies cease and desist from using taxpayer dollars to fund these divisive, un-American propaganda training sessions. Accordingly, to that end, the Office of Management and Budget will shortly issue more detailed guidance on implementing the president's directive. In the meantime, all agencies are directed to begin, and he goes on and on with what they're supposed to do. And one of the things they also do is if you are in these agencies and it's still going on, they've set up an email so people can send information about it. And also Christopher Rufo, because of his work, he's also getting information. They're going to root all these people out. And anybody that persists in reading some of the comments from we on the right, they were saying things like, we need to fire these people. We absolutely need to get these people out of the federal government. They have infiltrated it. They're really bad people. And this is really horrible. And of course, on the left and Twitter, he's for racism or whatever. It's like, no, if you think about this, how cleverly this, what exactly does it mean when you say institutional racism? Because we don't have institutional racism. So if you really dig deep, what they're really talking about is destroying what we have in this country. It's destruction. It's somehow some kind of internal cleansing where we'll start all over. They're really, the worst of them are really into destruction. So if you say you're for Black Lives Matter, no, they took that term. They take these benign sounding terms and they're talking about destroying our country. So no, we're going to get rid of it. I'd also like to see us, and let me just finish on this topic. Because the president is also there's this horrible, the New York Times magazine, and it was actually just this one woman, came up with, and she got some kind of Pulitzer Prize. It's called the 1619 Project. And if you're not familiar with it, it basically, they use the word, because that's when the first slave ships came over, that this whole country was founded on racism and, because of slavery, that everything is about this issue, and they're teaching it to children. I cannot think of a more horrible thing to teach children. Well, that and gender fluidity stuff. But so we're going to get rid of that too in schools. And there's ways you can do it, because a lot of these schools get federal funding. So President Trump, just 2 days ago, he also put out an executive order to promote patriotic education. And it's called the 1776 Commission. And I wrote down the quote, what he said in his speech announcing this. America's founding set in motion the unstoppable chain of events that abolished slavery, secured civil rights, defeated communism and fascism, and built the most fair, equal, and prosperous nation in human history. The most prosperous nation. I mean, look at our free market economy. Look at all the technological advancements that come from everybody can make it here, that coming up from our United States. We are an amazing country. I mean, even when I was a Democrat, I knew that. We are an amazing country. People want to come here. Immigrants want to come here. And so we just need to put a kibosh on this. And it is like crazy. It has infiltrated the academic community. Infiltrated. Tim Pool, he said, you got to read the thread. Somebody had done an article talking about how blacks, why they might be getting more COVID. And it was amazing. All the MDs, PhDs that responded, that were saying all this stuff about, you can't look at this science, this is just, race is just some kind of social construct or whatever. It was horrific to read it. And so many people were saying, oh my God, look at these MDs. That you can't say that there's genetic differences among different categories of people. Holy moly. I mean, the so-called academic science community, they are going to eat themselves with this, because you go down this path, there's no clear thinking involved. And remember, that's one of the reasons I love science so much, because I really support clear thinking. It's been really something that I love. And this stuff is bunk. So I'm really glad. And they go, oh, he's for racism and whatever. And people don't understand. Now let me just quickly say something too. Because as the COVID-19 stuff goes down, the whole climate stuff will come back, and we need to not do that. And before I start, let me just say, you need to, please subscribe to Tony Heller's channel. He's getting more and more subscribers all around. I'll tell you why he's interesting. Because when you hear all these, when people just hear, oh, we're so warm, or this or that, and this is going to be happening, whatever. They can't put it into context, but he does. And I love the way he does it, because he does it by showing you headlines from previous decades. Like back in the 1800s, when it was hottest day. So when they were saying it was so hot in LA, it's like, no, it's been hotter. It's been hotter. And he'll show you the headline. He's just collected a treasure trove of headlines from all these papers and all around the world. And so he puts it in that context. And he's worked with people. I mean, he definitely knows his stuff. So I don't really need to do that, but let me just say something about California. Because when you listen to Joe Biden, oh my God, the people who write this stuff, all this stuff is going to happen. First of all, fires are not new in California. And so I was kind of curious to figure out, when did some of this stuff happen in terms of some of our bad policies. Any way you look at it, we're going to have forest fires and brush fires in California. And in fact, so just to put it in context, right now in California, we've had 2 million acres so far burned. But before the Europeans came, anywhere from 4.4 to 12 million acres would be burned annually in California before the arrival of the Europeans. So, I mean, California's always burned. And apparently there was kind of a turning point in the Great Fire of 1910. They called it the Big Burn, where 78 firefighters were killed. Wow. So at that time, they expanded the use of what's called fire suppression. And when I was growing up, there was Smokey the Bear, and he'd say, don't start forest fires. That was constantly drilled into us. They kind of got rid of Smokey the Bear at some point. But there were more fires in the 1920s and 1930s, and there were records of this, okay? So anybody that goes back and looks at the records, and I, at one time, really researched this, and it was just amazing how many fires there were and how much. So that information is out there, and Tony Heller's good at bringing that up. You don't have to do all this research yourself. Other people have done it. Just know climate change is not causing this. And if you notice any good scientist that speaks out on this issue, they won't dispute, climate change might be a factor. But please remember what we are talking about. We've had many warm periods in the past, warmer than this, even warmer periods since the end of the last ice age, which was, let's just say the peak of the last ice age was 20,000 years ago, then it started getting warmer. So we are technically in an ice age. You all know that, right? For the last 2.5 million years, we have been in an ice age. So we're in what's called an interglacial, and they usually last about 10,000 or so years. So technically speaking, we should be going back into a cold period. And in fact, in the 70s, there was really concern that we were entering a new ice age, because it's going to happen. We're still part of these Milankovitch cycles. We're still in this period. But even during these last, let's say, 10,000 so years, we've had some really warm periods. Holocene, they called them the optimum when they were warm periods, because that was good when it was warmer. So this concern about it's warmer is nuts. I mean, most people just say, let's adapt, okay? If it gets a little bit warmer, which it has since, 1880, I think it's about 1 degree C. So think about it. Like in Chicago, there's something like, if you go from the coldest night to the warmest day, there's maybe a 50-degree swing. We are used to shifts in climate. So if there's like overall, the whole world, there's a slight increase, like 1 degree, you don't think we can handle that? Look at even the ocean. We have to deal with tides going in and out and in and out. So what are you talking about with sea level rise? I mean, seriously, people, we're just talking, I don't remember the exact number, but it's like inches per century. Per century. A slow creep up like that, you really think that's a problem that we can't deal with? So remember what the left does. And not just the left, but anybody who can make money on this. They gin up the headlines, they gin up the fear. It's like, we gotta act now, okay? And it's like clockwork. It's gonna happen. They're gonna just try to scare you. So for example, there was, oh my gosh, and it was a commission, the Commodities Future Trading Commission put out a bipartisan, because it was a Republican, clearly a rhino, okay, claiming that extreme weather events mean we need a carbon tax to mitigate the results. Let me just point out the problems with that. First of all, let's just say there were extreme weather events caused by climate change. Remember, everything happens on a global scale, these extreme weather events, the increase in carbon dioxide. It spreads around the globe, the whole atmosphere of the globe. So you think what we do in California is going to affect just the it's just going to fix it for California or the United States? I mean, it makes no sense. If China is increasing, and let's say you believe this, if China is increasing, which they are, their CO2 emissions and not hurting their economy for it, but we are hurting our economy, well, it doesn't matter. If the other countries are doing it, it doesn't matter. Now you could say, oh, but the excuse they made before is that we need to set an example. Yeah, screw ourselves, excuse my language, ruin our own economy unilaterally so others can benefit. See, that's the point. People like Obama that promoted this at the, apologized for the United States, which has been such a beacon to the whole world. He apologized to the United States. That was so awful to me because of our carbon dioxide emissions. We had this great, vibrant economy, technological progress that the whole world was benefiting from, and he apologized for that. So they would rather, so there's a group of people, this kind of elite group, and then other people who want to be part of that elite group. Because I'm trying to figure out, why do people support this? Smart people, whatever. Well, first of all, if you're in certain communities, you really have to keep quiet. And I've seen that because I have in the past, not since the COVID shutdown, interacted with a lot of scientists at Caltech and just knew a lot of people. And, they're not crazy, but they kind of keep quiet. They keep quiet. They kind of understand this, but you literally cannot be in that environment and be a Republican and openly a Republican. You can't be a conservative, and you can't be a Trump supporter. I just said it. I don't care. I kind of shamed him, but that's another story, and I think I told it already, so I won't tell it again. But this idea that you need a carbon tax, who do you think makes money from a carbon tax? All the people in the financial industry. Because you got to figure out, it's a bureaucratic nightmare, but people will make money on it. They'll be trading things. That's that whole cap and trade idea. Trading credits and stuff like that. Well, it's just money for the financial industry. So ignore Wall Street, ignore the financial community, the Goldman Sachs types that support this thing. I don't know Goldman Sachs, but I'm sure they do. It's a big money-making scheme for them. And the people who ultimately will be hurt are your electricity costs, your costs for fuel, your cost, small businesses, manufacturing jobs, everything, every company that energy is part of running your business. That's one of the reasons why I don't invest any of my money outside of the United States, because all the other industrialized countries have these kind of schemes, and it's not a good way. It's not good. So just know to say no, and don't let these people make you think that they know more than you do. If they're trying to scare you on projections, and one of the things I think has really helped with this whole COVID-19 is people are understanding that experts are not experts. Don't give away your power. Don't give away your freedoms. That's why I won't wear the mask, except where I absolutely have to. But for the most part, I just avoid places where I have to wear a mask. I just don't want to have any part of it. I have the freedom to do that. I don't want to get on an airplane right now. I don't want to get on an airplane if I have to put a mask on. How dare they? How dare they? I mean, to muzzle people, to change people. So all of this is coming out. And oh gosh, I so love our president. I so love that he never wears a mask. I mean, when I see these, by the way, I don't know if you ever watched those press conferences. Why do we even have these press conferences with the president, with Kayleigh McEnany? She's awesome. But when I see these reporters, they're sitting far, and they're talking through their mask. When I see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden talking through their mask, they just look like idiots to me. They look like idiots, and they look weak, very weak. They probably think, oh, look at my virtue signaling. Well, I'm just thinking, you look like an idiot to me. It's like, take off the mask while you're talking, in the same way that people take off the mask while they're eating. Just don't be trying to talk through that mask where you can't even hear someone. By the way, I just want to point out one thing, and I was trying to find where I saw it. I saw it on one of the Fox shows. But it was a clip of Kamala Harris. Because you understand, I can understand why Biden, with his cognitive difficulties, they really don't want to get him out there that much. And he can only go out for short periods of time. So they're doing something with his drugs, I'm convinced, and many others people are convinced as well. Because when somebody has cognitive difficulties, you can kind of give them stuff to pump them up for short periods of time, but then you need to give them a break. They can't just keep going on and on, because you can't keep the drugs start having no effect. So he's definitely got some kind of drug thing going on, I'm convinced, just to enable him to get out there, but then he can't do it for a while. So I can understand why they're trying to keep him out of the limelight. But why Kamala Harris? I mean, doesn't have cognitive difficulties, but she's not taking questions. Because every time that woman speaks, she's awful. Like, I just saw a brief thing where she had the mask on. She's idiotic to me. But she was talking about, somebody, I guess, asked her about parents that want to send their kids back to school, when this would be happening. Now, suppose you believe that, kids should not go to school, which is, I don't agree with that. You would at least be sympathetic to the parents, whatever. But she's talking about it, like, yeah, we need to do that. And then she has this really weird laugh. It's so out of place. It creates such dislike in people. I can really see why. She looks good on paper for many people. So at the very beginning of the Democratic primaries, or during that season, she was popular. But then she just started dropping, because she is hugely, hugely unlikable. Why would you laugh? I mean, it's such there's sometimes where you don't laugh. Oh my God, the dislike factor is so huge that you would laugh when all these parents are going through these difficulties. Even if you think it's necessary, at least look concerned. So she's not even a good actress. I mean, her policies are ruinous to people, but her laughing about it. And of course, you've seen that. I mean, even before, when I don't need to go into it, but I think they're keeping her off from saying things because she is hugely unlikable. So I don't know how they're going to keep that going. There's already early voting, and the Dems are trying to get their people to vote, because if they start seeing, I think that the debates are going to go through. Looks like it's going to happen. But just don't give too much credit to those Democrats. They're not that smart. Trust me. I used to be one. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you. Try to watch some of President Trump's rallies. He's so good. And I'll talk to you next week. Bye.